Oh,
We are Supremely Black, and we are Flake Rose and Spears. How y'all doing this week, fellas?
it's big Ken folk Jay Flake, man, doing good, man. Solid week so far. Happy that football season is back, even though my team they lost. They took an L. Kind of hurt the heart a little bit. We came so close to winning. So it hurt. And then also I'm in this football pool. Could have won $200, but Lamar Jackson want to fumble the ball in overtime. That cost your boy 200. So I'm a little hot about the first season of football. I mean, about the first week of football right now. A little upset about that, but you know what I'm saying? We're gonna come back week 2. You know, the Cowboys gonna get them a win. I'm gonna get back up there with my 200. You know what I'm saying? Get everything back on track. You know what I mean? But everything has been good. Mentals is good. Counting chickens. Babies is all right. It's been a good week. Can't complain.
What's good? Yeah, this D Rose, everything been good. I actually enjoyed football Sunday. Football week, it was the Cowboys lost. I don't think it gets any better days in America than that. My Broncos won, which is a good thing. I can't say how many times I'm getting to say that this year, so we're gonna go on and ride it while we can. But overall, everything is good. I can't complain at all. What about you, Spirit?
My week was good. Even though the Cowboys lost, I'm happy with the product that we put on the field. I'm happy with the effort that we showed, and I'm looking forward to the rest of our season. I mean, we lost by 2 points in a hard fought battle against the defending champs. If we would have got another kicker, I think, and let our kicker take the time he needed from his back surgery, I think we easily would have won. But
Let it all out. Let it all out, man. Don't take that into a new week, man. Let it all out. What else did you need?
If ands and buts. So I'm happy that my boy Kyler Murray balled though. So I'm also rooting for the Cardinals in the NFC West. So I'm happy my boy Kyler Murray ball and they got the dub. So I mean, all in all, everything's been a good week. Everything's been good. Ain't too much studying 1 week in a 17-game season because we know who's the cream of the crop in the NFC East and who's gonna do that damn thing when it come playoff time. So we know it ain't gonna be them Broncos, but we do know them boys will be there. So I'm happy and excited about that. Rose, don't even try to rebut. We just gonna jump into this college, this HBCU conversation about ex-NFL players joining the ranks of coaching in the HBCU realm and just our thoughts on it, how we feel about it, and what we think the impact could be. I know we had a conversation before where we touched and dived in just, how we feel like our 5-star, our top recruit athletes should all go to HBCUs and bring the power there and the resources and the money there by, whether it be television or it be marketing, promotion, all that other stuff. And then, now that they can make money off their likeness, that will be even more of an influx of everything, revenue, media, everything, people, enrollment, all of that stuff because of who comes to the school. So let's just dive in about what we think are ex-top athletes who used to play at a high level. Some of them Hall of Famers. Well, the two that we know of, Eddie George in the Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir, he is.
Yeah.
So 2 of them Hall of Famers now coaching at HBCUs, one Tennessee State, the other Jackson State University. And so let's just talk about that and dive in and see how we feel and what we think the pros and the cons of it are.
Ain't nothing but pros. Ain't nothing but pros can happen from this, man. To be honest with you, I don't know if it's gonna be any cons that could come out of this, but when you got former NFL superstars, the black men that are going back and coaching young black men I mean, in my eyes, it can't get any better than that. What other reason to have a black you trying to get to those ranks? What better way to have another black man who balled out those ranks and then come back as a coach that can, y'all might have had some of the struggles coming up that teach you and guide you and give them motivation to get to where you need to be. Um, Whether you either reach to the NFL or whether it just be life experience, and things like that, be some type of male role model, male figure. What better way to being a coach that you see all the time, especially during camp? You see them all day, every day, just about, and then you go through the whole season with them, including the off season. I love what Deion is doing. We did leave out one black coach as well. Excuse me. We left out Tyrone Wheatley as well. Tyrone Wheatley started coaching at Morgan State back in 2019. If you remember who Tyrone Wheatley is, he was an outstanding running back for the University of Michigan. He did make a small stint to the NFL as well. So he's went back and started coaching. And the next person who might be up for a coaching job at HBCU is also Marshall Faulk. So he's looking to come back and coach and possibly be coaching at HBCU as well.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Flake. I honestly don't think that there's any cons at all to it. Just like you were saying, Tyrone Wheatley, Eddie George, Deion Sanders, all of them actually pouring back into the HBCUs. I think it goes to the point, like we were speaking about previously, that I think that's what's going to help merge a lot of the different things. We know that the resources and the facilities aren't up to par with like the Power 5 schools, but the lifelong things, because the harsh reality is not everybody's going to make it to the NBA or NFL or any professional sport, but being able to relate to the person that's actually coaching you, I think those lifelong, that 4-year journey, 3-year journey is actually going to weigh out a lot more than just worrying about making it to the NFL. Because I mean, we all know that we struggle with having a man in the household to start off with for the most part. But that's a huge impact to see those brothers actually not just focusing on getting to a school that could have been their alma mater or would have paid them more, to really realize the direct impact on, teenage kids, basically, high teens going into their early adulthood. I think it's phenomenal. I hope more coaches, I hope more players that were really Hall of Fame caliber decide to enter the coaching ranks in the HBCUs. I think that'll help with drawing more attention to it, because the brotherhood and the fatherhood that they've already been around.
One quick question, Flake, is Tyrone Wheatley the head coach?
I believe so. We'll go
Okay.
back and look. Yeah, he is head coach. He is the head coach.
Because my thing is, just so we're clear, because I had an NFL coach me in college, and I went to 2 HBCUs. So I had an NFL coach me in college. So I just wanted to say, one, head coaches, because not every ex-NFL player gets the head coaching position. They might be coaching in the ranks at HBCUs and everything, and there are a lot of them that are, because I had a phenomenal coach and he was a great player, and he played for the Eagles. Sorry to say, Coach Grizz, but he messed up his knee, so that shortened his NFL career, or he might be a potential Hall of Famer himself. But so there are ex-NFL players that are coaching right now, but I would just talk about the head coaching ranks and getting the head coaching position. But I will have to disagree with y'all fellas to a certain extent, and it might be just because I lived that life. I was an athlete. I've been in that, what's the word I want to use for it? Circus, I guess, for a lack of better terms, in that circus. And I understand, one, the politics of it, 2, the business of it, and then 3, the lives that you're impacting positively or negatively, whether it be them kids, them young men, because they're not kids, them young man lives. And a lot of times, you could be a great player, but you could be a shitty coach. just because you could ball and make it to the Hall of Fame don't mean that you could lead young men and be a leader of men. Doesn't mean that you could galvanize people together to get them to form one goal and to do one thing for one commitment. And so my only con would be, is it for the right reason? Or is it just to bring money to the school, revenue to the school, get some recognition and exposure? Or is it for the right reason? Are these coaches, if they're losing, going to get a longer leash than some regular black man who aren't ex-NFL players who would have got fired after 3 or 4 years when they had losing records? Are these ex-Hall of Fame players going to get 5, 10 years of losing records because they have this name, they bring this money, they bring this revenue in and all that other stuff, and the alumni are backing them or supporting them? So that will be my only con to the thing about it, because it got to be for the right reason, and it can't just be for, exposure and just for, to bring media in and all this other stuff. It has to be for the right reason. And if it's for the right reason and the right results are coming forth, then yeah, I'm all with it. But if not, that's my only thing, that it could be a con, because just because you was a great player don't mean you'll be a great coach. And just because you're a great coach don't mean you'll be a great player either, or vice versa anyway. So that's just my only thing that I would have to say negatively about it.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty, that's an honorable remark in regards to that. I look at it this way, is that if they did get a longer leash, I honestly would say I wouldn't care if they were still getting exposure, because I would look at it as that maybe the talent around them has gotten better, that it would be harder for them to actually compete amongst each other. Because how I look at it is, other coaches in bigger programs that aren't black get the same amount of time to be able, or even longer when they're not been successful. And we see that when a black coach actually isn't successful on the Power 5, they don't have 3 to 5 years. They may have 2 years at the most. They don't even get through a recruiting class before they're replaced. So if they're bringing in exposure and it's just not winning records, I mean, of course you want to win, but at the end of the day, if they're bringing in the right coaching mentality, but also exposure, I wouldn't care if they had a 5 or 10 year lease, because that warranted attention could still get kids actually drafted from those schools. Because just last year in the actual draft, there wasn't one player taken from an HBCU. To me, I think that's crazy when you could look at these other players that come from these Power 5 schools. That don't make them better, because I think a lot of them are average, but what they have is a coach that has connects, and they will end up either being a trash coach or a trash player in the NFL, but they still get those opportunities. I don't think that being in those smaller conferences, or you don't even know about it, they're not even granted that opportunity at all.
And I hear what you're saying, and that's a great point. But my thing would be, is it about you, or is it about the support and bringing notoriety to the school? Because if it's about the support and bringing notoriety to the school, regardless if you're a coach or not, you could put your name, your stamp, your product, or be an ambassador for that school and say, okay, I'm supporting this school, or I'm going to be here watching practices, all this other stuff, talking to my connects and networking with people and telling them, come check this kid out, come do this or whatever. Or I'm going to say, this kid during the summer, I'm going to train him on the side or whatever. So is it about you as getting the publicity and getting the accolades and saying, oh, I want to be the coach? Or is it about you supporting HBCUs in general, regardless if you're a coach or not, and saying, I'm going to put a stamp behind HBCUs because this is where our children need to be? And so that's my thing. Like, if you're not winning, then because there's also qualified black man, non-professional athletes who could get these kids winning and possibly some championship rings and all this other stuff, and could do some mighty things in developing young men into great men and leaders and all this other stuff, who don't have the NFL behind them, the back and the name, the stamp, but they can actually impact these kids' lives in a positive way. So just because you're not a coach, I still think you should be supporting HBCUs, especially if you're a black ex-NFL player, and you got Hall of Fame stamps behind your name or whatever the case may be. So that's my thing. I totally agree with what you're saying, but I still think if you're not coaching, so for all these players who not coaching right now, don't even have a passion for coaching, you could still do some things to bring publicity and notoriety to these HBCUs without even coaching. So that's what I mean more so about doing it for the right reason.
Yeah, I'll follow you because I think that's for the right reason for the coaches. But also what we just got to be honest. When you see how you look at it is when people start to draw into a certain bucket, we know that garners attention. Just the same difference is they get drawn in by their alma mater that may not pour into the community at all besides grabbing out the talent. So, I think those are good pros and cons, honestly.
And I would think that these guys are stepping down to be doing it for the right reason. As we know, HBCU head coaches only make about, not saying only make, but comparison to a lot of other schools is only. So they only make about 200,000 or 300,000 per year. You get to the smaller ranking HBCUs, you probably getting about anywhere from 80 to 100,000 per year to coach at these colleges, compared to Division I schools where they coaches are getting paid $4.5 million a year, this $6 million a year, or whatnot. So if we talk about, people who already might have had millions in their pocket at one point in time, or had or still have millions of dollars in their pocket, when you stepping down to coach at a level of, only making 150,000 to 200,000, and for a fact that your name and notoriety could get you at your previous alma mater. Like Deion was in the talks of going back to Florida State. I'm sure Eddie George could have went back to Ohio State or to another D1 and been a running back coach or assistant head coach and got paid a nice amount of money for being able to do that. So I will hope these coaches are doing it for the right reason. And Spears, I'm with you. If you can be a wonderful player and be a horrible coach, you can be a terrible, horrible player and be a great coach. As we see a lot when you look at former backup quarterbacks that probably were journeymen in the NFL or they didn't get much playing time in college. Some of them turn out to be good coaches because they spend a lot of time, right by the coaches watching and learning because they wasn't playing. So that happens also. I do think these people will get longer leashes. I do think that these former players that are becoming head coaches, yeah, they will get a longer leash because they're going to bring a lot of notoriety to the school. They're going to bring more funding to the school than it was before. So to be honest with you, it's going to be some ADs where they be like, yeah, he horrible. Yeah, we losing. But yeah, I'm going to be a leech and I'm going to suck all the dollars I can out of this because we got people filling up the stadiums. We got more donations than we ever had. We got people buying a pearl. Our homecoming is now, the biggest it's ever been. We got people come from all over for our homecoming. Just for example, we just had the classic between JSU and TSU. That damn stadium was almost filled. And I've been down there to the classic before, and it wasn't as many people in that stadium as it was this previous year.
Yeah.
So they will get a longer leash due to that. I just hope and pray it's all for the right reasons. For what I seen Eddie George probably about a couple of weeks ago out and about at a football game. He was going to do a little bit of scouting then for a running back, and I got a chance to talk to him before the game. He seemed like his heart in the right place for coaching and whatnot. He seemed like he's in it for the right place. I hadn't met Deion. I hope I do one day, but just going off his videos and what he's putting out there, it seemed like his heart in the right place. He's doing a lot of stuff. He calling out parents like, yeah, number 62. I met your dad earlier, 28. Your mama was here. I talked to her, blah, blah, blah. Man, that when I seen that, man, it just filled my heart some because some coaches, they don't know who your parents are, don't care unless you the top-notch player on the team. And, Deion out here trying to learn who everybody mama daddy is and talk to them and things like that. So it seemed like their heart's in the right place. And I hope so. And I hope this becomes a trend where even if they not the head coach, but if they can just come back and be a wide receivers coach, or if they can come back and just come to camp, show up at camp and give some technique skills, for a week and be gone. I hope it turns into a trend where we can get when we get these coaches, former players, to come back to the HBCUs and do that. And I think this will get, some of those 4-star, 5-star recruits, back in the HBCU rankings that we used to have back in the day when you had Ed Too Tall Jones, Jerry Rice, all those type of Hall of Famers that went to HBCUs and went on to be great players. So hopefully we can get these 4-star and 5-star recruits back in. We're starting to see it a little bit on the basketball side. So hopefully we can get on the football side.
Yeah, but I like I was saying, I think it is positives and negatives when it comes to actually getting clout. But at the end of the day, as long as their heart is in the right place, I think that's a key thing. But I mean, for me, I just think from looking at like comparing the talent, you can see that there's a vast difference. But Spears, I ask you this question since you've played in the league. Does that really matter that much, or is it just not a lot of talent that really comes to HBCU? Like, I'm pretty sure you've had discussions with people that could have went other ways. I'm pretty sure it was either grades or a lot of different things that could have impacted. But why don't you think more inner city kids go to HBCUs?
It's a couple of reasons. So it's a couple of factors. But to answer the first question that you asked, the talent difference is only within the linemen. So the offensive lineman and defensive lineman is the biggest talent difference. So not saying that HBCUs don't produce great offensive or defensive linemen, but that is the biggest separation between a HBCU D1 and a Power 5 D1. Everything else is pretty much even keel and the same. And I will also say quarterbacks to a certain extent, but then everything else is pretty much even in the same. Your running backs, your receivers, your DBs, your safeties, your linebackers. Most likely HBCUs 10 times faster than most Power 5 schools, mainly. The talent-wise, the skill level and everything is probably better than most Power 5 schools and everything. They got hunger, they hit harder, they run faster, they got the swag, the culture that we do. Like, it's just innocent, groomed in us. There ain't no shutting it down or quieting it down because you're at this PWI and you gotta be a do boy and follow in and fit in. It's, this is what we do. Practice every day, talking shit. You at people's heads, all this other stuff, listening to the music on the fields, giving game time. But how we do because we got the band, so the battle of the band. So, at practice, it's live. You listening to ESTG, you listening to Yo Guy, you listening to whoever during practice, all this other stuff. So it's a different lively environment. It's live and it's lit, but the biggest difference is the lineman. So I would say, and again, this ain't for everybody, but I would say 60% of skill position players at HBCUs could play at D1 level and could be a D1 level starter at any school from the SEC to the AAC. So that goes from, the conference that Cincinnati's in and everything to the conference that Alabama's in. And so that is the biggest separation, is the lineman. Now, as far as why we don't choose it or why a lot of us didn't choose it is because, to be honest, a lot of us probably didn't know what HBCUs really was until right at our junior, senior year. If we're just being straight honest with you, a lot of us didn't know what a historically black college or university was until we became juniors or seniors, and until we was on the verge already of deciding stuff. But after we fell in love with Ohio State, Alabama, Texas, Clemson, whatever, all this other stuff, and we seen what they produced, what level they was on year in, year out, where the TV showed, the players that they put in the league, all this other stuff. So we thinking about, because most of us come from a certain environment, we thinking about getting out and putting food on the table for our family. So we're not thinking bigger picture, we think a smaller picture. So we're not thinking we could do the same thing at this HBCU and still get there and still provide for our family. We're thinking of the best case scenario. But what also is a thing that we don't think about is you go into battle all these other players who are just as good as you. And not saying that you don't have the talent that they have, because the thing with players as well is talent only gets you so far. It's work ethic. It's what you do afterwards. It's what you do when nobody else looking. So that's what separates talent. So at the end of the day, Deion Sanders and Joe Blow could have been the same talent-wise, but Deion Sanders was the one staying at the watching videos and filming, doing all this other stuff. Joe Blow was just like, I always been that guy, that dude. I run a 4.2. I could bench press 225, 15 or 20 times. I really don't gotta do nothing. Ain't nobody running past me. Ain't nobody getting past me. I don't gotta do nothing. And then they stayed as other younger, talented people came in and filled in. So that's something that we don't think about, because there are a lot of players that we see that are 5-star recruits, 4-star recruits, go to a big school, but then you always wonder, why ain't I seeing them play? What happened to old boy that came out from our school a couple of years ago, whatever? And a lot of the times either they're not as good as they thought they were overrated, because sometimes talent evaluators mess up and miss things out on who they think is going to be projected to be, a good player. But then also is the work ethic. And you never know, no matter if a coach vouch for you, a coach going to vouch for you because that makes his program look good. So a high school coach, if he got a good player and he put enough stats, regardless if his work ethic is piss poor or whatever, he going to say, yeah, you should take my player because that's helping him look good. But at the end of the day, a lot of these coaches really don't know an athlete until they get them in themselves, and they don't know their work ethic or attitude. So that's a thing that separates it too. So that's what I say to answer your question.
Yeah, I think that's dope. I didn't want to cut you off because you was getting into it. I don't think it's just alignment. Now I looked at that. I've been checking out more of their games, but I looked at their special teams, my boy. Listen here, now that's probably about inconsistent. I mean, I think we've now seen the schools in the inner city. They probably going for 2 because they probably really ain't got no kicker, but they gonna run your ass to death all game. But it might be a kicker here or there. But I was looking at the special teams. That was something that I had noticed. I couldn't really tell the lineman size because it looks like both sides are pretty much equally. The athletes, and it's just more or less to the point of like people saying like, well, the HBCU programs are terrible. I just don't think that it's, I don't think they're just not getting a lot of attention in those programs. I think that's the biggest issue, is because, I mean, it's some trash quarterbacks that came from Power 5 schools that they only really got in there. They've been holding a clipboard since they left college, and they rolled the backs of all the athletes that was around them. You can't name a top quarterback right now from Alabama that's just producing at high numbers. And we all know that they dominate everything. Like Clemson, I give them that, but it's like people be saying the big names is because I think they do a great job with selling the big names. So that drives people there because, like you said, if you wasn't privy to knowing what HBCU was, I'm ready for Duke to call, North Carolina to call, Florida State, Miami is like, but
But just to touch on what you said, and it's kind of getting a little off subject, but it's staying on. That's the thing that I wish people kept in mind, is that the talent around you can make you look better than what you really are. And so I was having a conversation with some of my teammates that I play flag football with this weekend, and I told them that Deshaun Watson is better than Patrick Mahomes. They looked at me crazy and swore me up and down. But I had to say, you have to think of the talent that Patrick Mahomes has had around him the whole time. I'm not saying Patrick Mahomes is trash or sorry, but he is not as good as Deshaun Watson. If you put Deshaun Watson in Kansas City with the same talented athletes, Deshaun Watson would be doing just the same, if not better, than Patrick Mahomes. And so that's the thing. A lot of people don't realize that talent around you elevates your game too, and they make up for a lot of mistakes that you make, back to your point. So again, there's a lot of people, like you said, Alabama, for example. There ain't really no Alabama quarterback who just came out crushing in the NFL or killed it like that. Why? It's because the talent around him, everything else was around him was grade A, upper echelon, and he might have been that position might have been the only subpar position that they've had throughout their whole program existence since Nick Saban been there. But everything else, when everything else around you is A plus, and you might be a B minus, I mean, that's gonna make you look like an A minus. So the talent around you does cater a lot to how good people really think you are.
Yeah, we even take that back to USC quarterbacks, man. When the USC was running the college ranks, man, you would think they quarterbacks was amazing, and then they get to the NFL, you like, boy, these boys are so trash. But going back on why some of them choose those D1 schools over HBCUs, and I've talked to a few, is that they also it's the money, and I'm not talking about money under the table. We gonna pay your mama rent. I'll pay your mama mortgage while you go to school here. I'm also talking about when they come in and they showing them brand new Jordan 11 cleats. They showing you these gloves, and they give you new pair of cleats and gloves every Saturday game. And you go to that locker room, and it's plush with TVs and everything else in it. And they walk you around that facility, and it's some stuff that you ain't never even seen before. It's like, I ain't never seen a facility like this before. Because you go to some private high schools, and they got some of that same stuff. Not all the same, but it's just a lower level at some of these college facilities. When I played football, we had one practice field. It rained, snow, sleet, tornado, hail. That was your practice field. We had some little poles in the ground at the end. You go drink your water on your break. Then you go to this D1 school. If it rained, oh, we got a turf field on the inside for that. You going to get water. We take a break. Oh, we got 20, 30 people on our staff. They come bring you the water. You know what I'm saying? Oh, buy your own cleats. No. When you come in Saturday morning, you have a pair of cleats, your new uniform sitting out with your new socks, with your new gloves, with your new pads. So sometimes you get caught in that. The spirit's right. Sometimes you get caught in that short term deal there. And it's like, man, I'm gonna go to school here. I'm gonna pick XYZ school because, man, the locker room looks so good. And then let's be honest with you, some people in your family think white ice is colder. For whatever reason, when you put that Notre Dame, that Alabama, you put that University of Tennessee on your back or on your chest, and your parents go take that visit up there, and some of your uncles and your cousins, man, they put you on a scale a little bit higher than they would be if you was going to FAMU for whatever reason. I don't know why, but I mean, it's just how it happens sometimes. Because I guess you got the potential of being on TV 3 or 4 times out the year versus, you go to HBCU school, you're gonna be on TV maybe once, and depending on how good you're playing, you definitely gonna be on. Depending on your school, you definitely gonna be on TV for Thanksgiving. When the playoffs hit and the HBCU bowl game hit, you'll be on TV then. But it's gonna be ESPN 3. It ain't gonna be ESPN 1. Ain't gonna be ESPN 2. Ain't gonna be an ABC. Ain't gonna be an NBC game. It'll be ESPN 3. You'll be on TV. So I guess a lot of people look at it like that. Like, when you go to those other schools, it's a good chance you can come home, turn on TV, and experience playing quarterback for whatever school on NBC at 3:30 on Saturday, So, but yeah, from talking to some players, it basically had they go to HBCU school, don't have that same amount of money, where, their facilities is not as good. The jerseys they put on might not have the name on the back. If it do, they hadn't had an upgrade in uniforms in probably the last 5 years or something like that. And I mean, that happens, but I'm, like I stated, I hope these coaches, these former NFL players will come back and get those, as Dr. Umar say, donations, and so we can start to get, better facilities for our historically Black colleges.
Yeah, and I think that it is what it is. I mean, and I can't even say where anybody has purposely just neglected the HBCU schools outside of media coverage. But also we know that they follow where the dollar goes. So I really wish I could just see, do they even still play the HBCU games on BET like they used to back in the day?
Yeah, they do. They do. But it's the bowl game. Depending on what bowl games they sign up for. Able to
But
grab.
it's also certain classics,
Yeah.
classics get played.
That's what I meant. I said bowl games, classics. Yeah.
Classic. Yeah, and see that I think that's key. Is like it has to be some type of network that can be created to where you don't have to leech on to get ESPN3, because if you got an app, I'm gonna be real with you, I'm not searching for HBCU games on the ESPN3. I'm gonna be real with even at ESPN2. Like if it's not coming up on ESPN, then it's not necessary. I really wish that there would be some pool resources, to getting it to a point where we have our own ESPN for the HBCU schools, and all of them. So you could just look at all the conferences, all the games, and just check out who's really balling on Saturday or Friday, whenever they play. You feel me? Like, I feel like that's what's needed in order for them to get the actual attention, because honestly, leeching on the ESPN 2 or 3, I don't think that's going to resolve the issue. Because if I had the choice,
it has been discussions about that. I can't remember. I remember reading up about it before over the summer before the season started. I know BET was in talks of showing more HBCU football and basketball games. I want to say it was another network. I don't know if it was Fuse or another one, TV One, that's possibly in discussions of talking about showing some games, because those cable companies wasn't showing. They don't show any games, but they was talking about getting involved and showing more of these HBCU basketball and football games as well. So hopefully some can come out of that. Hopefully some contracts can be signed, some television deals can be worked out and done where we can start getting some of these schools on TV. Because I ain't gonna lie, I'm gonna watch them. Whenever they on TV, I watch them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've seen something with Black Sports Network too. I think it was like a year or so ago before really the Eddie George and Deion Sanders started rolling in. They were still highlighting the previous coaches. I was starting to see on different networks, from news articles, YouTube, a lot of different people are starting to cover it more, which, back to Spears' point, if they're in it for the right reason and not just the notoriety, I think we could be heading in a very good direction to where what we're talking about now would be, spearheaded or fast forwarded to the point where, like, oh, yeah, bro, you check him out here. Or, hey, bro, we going to this game here. Like the same way that we like to frequent some of these other events, we got to start, like, back to our point, just tied in to make it supremely Black. We got to pour our money into our own resources to where we're not asking for it. We're going to them games, like not just the class. You know what I'm saying?
Well, this the catch.
Yeah.
This the catch. Whenever they on TV, we all need to tune in.
Yeah.
That's the thing. If we gotta Google it and see where it's at and see what's going on. If you can't make it to that game, we need to be watching it to drive some of their ad revenue up.
Yeah, because I seen that I want to say the Jackson State and Tennessee State game on one thing, it ended up having like 712,000 views just on that particular channel of people tuning in and watching it. And I don't even know if it was on TV. I watched it on YouTube. It was on ESPN3.
Yeah, it was.
See, that's huge, because if that did it just on ESPN3, I was watching it I seen it on the YouTube stream that had it on and off, and it was doing solid numbers, like 2 or 3 of them that was doing and covering the games, and they were covering some other schools as well. But I think that's just what's needed, like drive the ratings up. It don't even matter if you watch the game, put the other one on somewhere else, but watch it.
But that's also one thing that we have to do and keep in mind too, is that we have to, there's 2 points I want to make, but the first point dealing with this is we have to make the product better. And I'm not talking about the actual football games, is the commentators. Like, that's why we need, regardless of how much money you're making or whatever the case may be, we need people who are scholars, exceptional at what they do, to tap back into their community and their culture. Because to be honest with you, some of these games that I be watching, the HBCU games, and I watch a lot, the commentation be horrible. And that's part of the experience. So a lot of times, sometimes I might mute that game, keep it on, and then I might have another, you know, app, phone, computer, TV on one of them, you know, big games, Power 5 games, and I have that one actually with the volume on and be going back and forth between the games, because a lot of the times you be having people not even keeping up or be a play behind with the play-by-play, or don't even know the players' names because they ain't studied the roster right enough, or trying to scroll at the same time, trying to say who made the tackle and all this other stuff and everything. And it's like, that is something that does detour people away from experiencing the true HBCU experience or watching it on these other channels and other resources and avenues. But the second thing that I wanted to touch on too, and it goes to something that Flake said, is we also got to be real, because Flake said that some Power 5 schools give you new jerseys, give you new cleats. You don't got to do this, you don't got to do that, all of this other stuff. Both HBCUs I went to, one was TSU, so excellent. We got to practice. If it rained or whatever, too bad. And we had a couple practice fields, but if it rained too bad, we got to practice at Titans indoor facilities and all this other stuff, like, because, you know, we was that close or whatever, and the Titans allowed us to do that. So I don't know who made the connection, but somebody, our AD or the president of the university, made that connection. So we always had the resources to use professional, you know, avenues. Our home locker room was in the Titans. We played in the Titans Stadium, and our home locker room was the Titans, the actual Tennessee Titans locker room. So, you know, we had certain resources. But then my other HBCU, which was a private HBCU that probably only enrolled, I want to say 2,500 students, but tuition was $22,500 a year, and it was private. But because sports is the biggest, outside of just tuition alone, sports is the biggest revenue asset to any school, and most importantly, football is, our school poured into our program because of what we bought in. So they provided us cleats. We had the freshest uniforms in the whole CIAA. We had everything at St. Paul's College. When it came to football, our coaches made sure they looked out for us and they took care of us. But the big thing that I want to say is, a lot of these presidents and ADs and stuff at HBCUs are embezzling money from these schools. So then that hurts the kids, not only just the athletes, but it also hurts the academic people who are trying to, you know, do something for their lives, because you have crooked ass people taking money and trying to reap the benefits and keep the money to themselves versus allowing it to pour back into the school like it's supposed to. So that's one of the biggest things too, why I think sometimes our 5-star athletes and 4-star athletes don't go to certain HBCUs, because they know everything ain't right when you go into the HBCU. So we got to clean up our own house before we try to get people to come in wholeheartedly and fully committed. And that's one of the biggest things. And I live that.
Yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that experience, because like I said, as I was doing some research, and that was one of the biggest things. I was like, any big school that has been considered as like one of the top out of the HBCUs, they've had money laundering issues, or it has been something with the finances, which is unfortunate. But I think that's a hell of a call out that you're saying, of that has to be addressed before people start to pour into it, because we were talking about it. For anything else, it's like, where's my money going to? It ain't for you to be riding the new Benz and tricking off on trips or whatever you're doing. So I think those are good call outs, but I really still, I hope that it gets to a point that where the necessary attention around it, and with you having the right people in the right places bringing in that, it starts to really make sure that they have like a third party that's connected with the actual school to investigate everything thoroughly. Once you start seeing hundreds of thousands or millions pouring in due to everything that's coming now, because I think you're cheating the kids at that point if they're choosing to come to school there, and they're able to make their own money as well. So if you're playing with the school's money, that's going to make everybody run away from boosters, Then you get penalties. Now we can't get on TV if we start to get TV deals even more. So it messes up everything. But that's a good call out too, because I wasn't even gonna take that angle. But that's really a good call out, because that's another thing. But you're speaking on it from experience, so it makes sense.
I mean, yeah, and that's very important. And that, once again, that's a good call out, because we dealing with smaller schools, that money hurts more than it does a Power Five, because it happens at these bigger colleges. However, it happens a lot. However, it's not enough money to make that much of a difference. They're like, all right, we getting rid of this person, but we got enough money to cover it up from exactly what happened, for sure. You go ahead on with that $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 you took from us. We'll make that back in about 3 games. We ain't even worried about that. But we got enough money to, sweep that on the rug and say, hey, he gone, he no longer work here. Send an email out, boom, boom, boom. But when you're dealing with these schools, you take out 75,000, 80,000. It's like, oh no, this making a big difference in the program. So yeah. Hopefully we can kind of weed some of that out, get those people out the way, catch them a lot quicker than it has in the past. Because there's been times where I've seen some of these situations where they've been doing it for 3 years, 4 years before they finally get caught. So hopefully, like you said, Spears, we got to clean up our own house first and get these players back home.
Quick correction. Power 5 averages a game 2.5 million a game. So it ain't no they'll make it back in 2 or 3 games. No, they'll make that back and more in one game.
One game.
Because you got to think, the only people who get in free at Power 5 stadiums is the students. So students get in free. Everybody else got to pay. But these stadiums are bigger than NFL stadiums, professional stadiums. Yeah. So these stadiums are sitting 90,000 to 100,000 people. Then you got to think of the TV deals. Then you got to think of the matchup. So if it's Alabama versus Florida or whatever, both big name schools with the TV deal, with all this other stuff, the revenue they bring in, the exposure, the notoriety, all of that stuff.
The apparel that's bought.
That's
easy.
Stand. Yeah, that's easy. Probably 3-4 million. That game, just off of everything. So, like you said, it happens at big schools, but somebody could skim off 250,000 off of every game out of the 12-game season, and that not even be noticeable. Like, oh, that I'm not even noticing that money gone. But at a HBCU, when you might be bringing in 100,000 a game, or maybe 80,000 a game, or whatever, and then you want to munch off 25,000 of it, or whatever the case may be, or you have alumni and boosters donating $1 million, but you only give to one certain program, but you only give that program 250,000 of that $1 million. Like, that's the things that's happening and everything. And then also when you chumping off of tuition, when you taking off of tuition for kids and pocketing it yourself and embezzling it. So for HBCU, it hurts that much more. And so we just need to make sure, to Rose's point, that we're pouring our resources back in, regardless if you're a head coach, regardless if you coach or not. NFL players, Black ex-NFL players, I don't care if you have a passion for coaching or nothing, put a stamp on an HBCU, because I know you got an HBCU at least in a 250-mile radius of where you grew up. Just support them, put some notoriety on them, sponsor them some cleats, sponsor them some jerseys, or even a simple thing that Deion just made, the names on the back. What that costs, what he said, like $3, $5 a jersey. Sponsor that. That's all you gotta do. We're not asking for much, but we're asking for support. But back to the bigger picture, is Deion, is Tyrone Wheatley, is Eddie George good for the HBCU culture and family and environment? Damn right, and hell yeah. So I'm glad that they're there. I hope that they just do the shit for the right reason, and I hope we get more people who want to come and invest into the HBCUs, because as I stated before on a previous episode, I'm going to try to push all my kids to go to HBCU, but if they choose not to, that's their choice. But I'm for every Black person experiencing HBCU, at least undergrad, for damn sure.
I can definitely feel it.
Yeah, I didn't have anything else in regards to that. I think we touched all the bases, all the pros, all the cons. From my perspective.
Yeah, I didn't have too much else, man. I just hope, like I said, I just hope we can pull this out. Like I stated before, we starting to see this with the basketball, HBCU basketball teams where they starting to get some top ranked players. So I hope we can do the same with these NFL players. I mean, with these top 4-star, 5-star recruit football players as well. Because as Deion Sanders had mentioned, why not a HBCU before when they wasn't allowing black people to go to these Power 5 schools? Where was the NFL getting their players from? You know, when they was drafting these black players, all of them was coming from HBCU. So it's not like Spirit stated. It's not that the talent is not there. The talent is there. How much exposure are you getting? I remember RP, God bless the dead, Fred Lane played a little old Lane College in Jackson, Tennessee, played for the Lane College Dragons and got drafted to the Carolina Panthers. I don't know how he got that exposure. I don't know what happened, but somebody made that connection where little Fred Lane, one of the fastest man I ever seen run that rock, get drafted and put on at the Carolina Panthers. So the talent is there. Talent is everywhere. It's just what type of exposure can that talent get?
No, for real. So if we don't have nothing else, I'm gonna go ahead and drop the Black Business Minute. So this week for our Black Business Minute, we got Graze by Abby. You can find her on IG at GRAZEDBYABBEY. Graze by Abby. So what she does is charcuterie boards. So everybody know what a charcuterie board is, or hopefully everybody know is when you got cheeses, sausages, crackers, pretzels, fruits and stuff, and cut up in a little beautiful design, maybe with a little decoration if you got a theme or whatnot, and make a charcuterie board, so you could theme it for holiday events, for birthday events, for wedding events, for bachelor parties, bachelorette parties, or whatever the case may be, or just a chill little kickback with friends and family, watching football or anything like that. So it's Grace by Abby. She also has a website that is grazebyabby.com. So it's the same thing. And you can find her custom grazing boards, boxes, and tables on her website. And you can see her services and what she provides in her charcuterie boards and the different setups. And again, the website is grazebyabby.com, just as is her IG, Graze by Abby. And that's our Black Business Minute for this week. Salute, Queen.
Awesome. Supreme Black Person of the Week. I put my glasses on. I'm looking at my computer. Maya Chaka. If I mess your name up, Queen, I do apologize. But she has made history being the first Black woman to officiate an NFL game. She officiated the New York Jets and Carolina Panthers game this past Sunday. So big shout out to her. Let's see here. She is she started her career off officiating college football, and she is a health physical education. She's a health and physical education teacher at Virginia Beach Public Schools. She says to all women, don't be afraid to step out the box and do something different. Her original dream was to be the first woman to play in the NBA. But since that didn't come true, her hustle and grind moved her into officiating football. Like I said before, she started off in the college ranks, and then she ended up working her way up to being the first Black woman to be an NFL official. So shout out to you, Maya Chaka. I hope I said the name right. If I did, I apologize, Queen. If I said it wrong, I'm terrible. I'll mess up the name in a minute, so I apologize.
Yeah, salute to both queens. We used to it at this point, Flaky. You messing up some pronunciation. We don't need trip no more, man. It is what it is. Yeah.
I don't mess up on this stage, though.
Right. Yeah. We get it. It's all good. But no, that's it.
Call me one take Flake when it comes to that comedy, boy.
Wrong with it.
Flake, before we close out, one, do you have a closer date or a set date on when you're gonna drop on different networks or streaming services? And then two,
Nah, we still working on editing right now. We still working on editing and getting it all together right now, just in a rough draft. We still got a couple of things to add to the video. As well, got to go downtown, do some things, and couple little family shoots as well. That's gonna all go into it, like a little introduction, like movie thing we doing. So, not yet, man. But once we get finished editing and get everything done, we definitely shopping it. And I'll keep y'all up to date on any dates of when that'll be out.
okay, and then two, let the people know what you told us today, just how, you know, uh, just how God works or how the atmosphere moves about your comedy show in Chicago.
Yeah, so crazy thing, as if you've been following and listening to the previous episode where we had Jamal Cole on and had this conversation about Chicago and what's going on in Chicago, this, that, and the other. I've been booked in Chicago for one particular weekend for a while. And I just never mentioned it to him because I didn't want to be that person. You know what I'm saying? I didn't want to be that person. So I was like, I just never mentioned it. If I run into him while I'm there, or I happen to see him out, it is what it is. So as I'm going through touching up on everything, because be prepared to, fly out this weekend to do my show in Chicago, he hits up, I DM him and says, hey, I got this, what he got going? Anyway, what is it, y'all? I don't forget already. He got a comedy show, but it was something else though. It's something else, but he got a benefit show. He's doing a benefit show, which is gonna be a comedy show. So I read it, but I didn't pay attention to it. I was like, oh, he got a benefit. Let me see what time it is. Hopefully I can pop up since I'm gonna be in town, pull up on him or whatever. But then I went back into it later on and said, hold on. So I was gonna respond to them, say, hey, I'll be in Chicago this weekend. If I got time, I'm gonna pull up. But then I deleted it and said, Flake, read that whole thing. So I read the whole thing. He having a benefit comedy show at the same time, at the same place where I'm doing my comedy show. So I said, well, damn, I'm on the show. And didn't even know it. Because I went through the owner of the comedy club to get booked. You know what I'm saying? I know the owner of the comedy club, so I went through her to get booked. I had no clue. I didn't go online to see who was gonna be there. Nothing. I was like, all right, I'm booked. I'll be there for the 2 shows. Boom, boom. Didn't have no clue it was gonna be Jamal Cole doing the benefit comedy show, man. So the universe works crazy, man. That is crazy.
That's dope, man. Just don't forget about us little people, bro. That's it. Don't forget about
I ain't gonna never forget about little brother.
Little brother. Don't forget about little brother. I hate to put you in the song, my dog. Yeah.
Jason Whitlock, Jamal Cole. Next thing you know, he gonna be on Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah, it's gonna be a 2-man show. It's just gonna be your boy Rose the Spirit, man. Flake big and better things, man. He finally got off the old yard. Yeah.
Nah, I ain't forget about little brother, man. Hey, hopefully, maybe not Dancing with the Stars, cause I got 2 left feet, but maybe we can get a good old TV show going, man. You know what I'm saying? So we get an old TV show going, these old family jokes pay off, and we get a TV show going like Miss Pat or the Bernie Mac. I ain't gonna lie, that's always been my thought. Like, I want to be the next Bernie Mac show. You know what I mean? So yeah. So I hope we can get this comedy take us places, and we get us some studio time so we can quit the Zoom, man, and pay for some studio time, man.
I'm with that.
Yes, sir.
But with that being said, for all our queens out there, put your crown on, tilt that thing to the side, let them know you are a queen. For all our kings out there, put your crown on, tilt that thing to the side, let them know you are a king. We are supremely black, and we out.